everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The fight over Congress's pre-poll guarantees in Karnataka is escalating. The Siddaramaiah government has now issued a detailed guideline for the implementation of the Gruha Jyoti scheme, which promised free electricity to all households up to 200 units of power every month, and the Shakti scheme that offered free travel to women in state-run transport corporation buses. These are amongst the 5 guarantees announced by the Congress in its manifesto for the recently held polls. The Siddaramaiah government is yet to announce the guidelines for the remaining 3, but the 2 that have been announced are complicating the situation as they come with terms and conditions for the beneficiaries that are completely changing the nature of the benefits announced. It is clear that while the party at that time was confident that there is no real issue of money when it comes to making these promises, their own government is now trying to soften the financial blow to the state exchequer. Congress governments in other states have also been criticized for either delaying or not implementing their pre-poll promises. So has the grand old party ultimately betrayed the public of Karnataka on these guarantees? That's a question we'll take to our guests in just a bit. Let me first break down these terms for the schemes one by one. First up, the big one, the promise of free power by the Congress. Now, 200 units per month were promised. What is becoming clearer is that free electricity will now be dependent on your monthly average consumption. And this average is going to be calculated on the basis of the power used by a household in the last financial year. The power usage up to 10% above the calculated average will be free every month. For instance, if you consumed 100 units average monthly, you will be allowed free power only up to 110 units of power. If the household exceeds the limit, then they have to pay for the excess units used. And all users who use more than 200 units in any case have to pay the full bill amount. Now moving on to the terms and conditions of the Shakti scheme, under which women will be allowed free bus travel in specific state-run buses, but state-run luxury buses, AC buses and non-AC sleeper buses are exempted. 50% of the seats in buses like those of the KSRTC, NWKRTC and KKRTC are reserved for men. The Shakti Smart Cards are going to be issued for the beneficiaries by the Transport Department, but these too will now take 3 additional months to be distributed. The problem is that this is not the first time. It's been 6 months since the Himachal Pradesh elections were won by the Congress party. Free electricity, remember, up to 300 units monthly were promised there too. This hasn't been implemented at all. In fact, now the Chief Minister has said that they will generate additional power over the next 3 years to make this possible. They also promised 1,500 rupees monthly assistance to women between ages of 18 to 60. After 6 months, this has been implemented just for the Spiti Valley area. The beneficiaries are going to be around 9,000 right now, while the original scheme promised or envisaged that 10 lakh women will benefit from this. So the big debate that's coming up right now, has the Congress betrayed the public as far as these guarantees are concerned, and is the public going to be wiser, or this whole culture of offering these guarantees, which are otherwise also called freebies, coming under question now? That's coming up in just a minute.
ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಬಡವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ 200 ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು ಯಾರ್ಯಾರಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು 200 ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಬಿಲ್ ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
As in a popular chief minister, it was his responsibility to set right the things. Instead of doing so, he has just left it.
Let's go across to the guest joining us. Dr. Sudha Halkai is the BJP spokesperson, Sanket Yanagi from the Congress party, Syed Aslam Pasha is the JDS spokesperson, and R.K. Upadhyay, senior journalist, who's of course tracked these promises made by the Congress party very, very closely. Let me in fact begin with R.K. Upadhyay before I go to our political guests. Mr. Upadhyay, is there a sense of betrayal, if not outright anger against the government because of the contours of the two schemes that I've just mentioned and how they completely changed the nature of these promises made?
Absolutely, Shivani. I think people are very, very disappointed that the Congress government, day by day, they are watering down the promises that they have made during the elections. I mean, already there is a talk that this is a Dhoka Congress Sarkar, Maha Mosa Sarkar. That's what people are saying. Because you promised something, you did not attach any conditions earlier, and then now you're attaching one condition after another. Why is this? I mean, why didn't you do the calculations earlier? Then now, saying all this because you can't afford it. Didn't you know it earlier? Didn't you make all these calculations? The Congress spokesman have been saying that for 1 year they've been working on this promises. And what did they do?
No, I remember. I covered these elections in some parts of Karnataka. I remember that even after the results were announced, they went on to say that there is not going to be any burden on the exchequer to the extent that this is a worry, that the state is rich enough to manage this.
Yes, I mean, see, but Siddaramaiah has so far not talked about how he's going to fund all this. He's only said it will cost about 50,000 crores or 50 to 55,000 crores. Where is this 55,000 crores going to come from? He has not said a word about it. So naturally, the burden will be on the people, and one by one, it's coming out. And look at this, Graha Jyoti scheme. I mean, this is one of the, Dhoka number one. Now, in fact, I've written an article saying that Dhoka number one, Dhoka number two, Dhoka number three, analyzing each one of them. You said 200 units are free to everyone.
Everybody, yes.
Now, what is that they come up with? They've calculated for 12 months of the last year, and then say if you consumed 80 units, you'll get 88 units free.
Yeah.
What happened to 200 units?
Yeah, no, this changes the nature of the scheme completely. I'll come to the issues of promising this in the first place. And, the fact that we've had this discussion over last year as well, where the courts and the EC also got involved in what kind of promises can be made by parties. Of course, that decision is pending. All parties have to come together on that thing.
Also, but they've increased the unit price by
absolutely.
₹2.
No, you're right. The unit price for electricity also has been increased by almost 3 rupees. So, this is like, absolute betrayal, Mr. Yanagi. It's one thing to delay the implementation, but to completely change the contours, on top of that, increase the price of the electricity unit in itself. Why didn't you think of this before?
Firstly, let me clarify one by one. So our government, the guarantees given by our party during the campaign is to cater to the needs of the people who have been suffering from the price rise, number one. So we are mostly concentrating on the people who are underprivileged or the backward, or the people who are unable to maintain themselves because of the price rise.
Sir, you did not say all this during the elections. You did not say it is only for those people. Did you say that during the election? It is only for those who are suffering, only the poor. Did you say that? You said everybody will get.
Please allow me to complete. Let us have some
even I will get, even my wife will get.
Okay, let him finish. Let him finish. Yes.
No. Let us have some decency. When person is making statement, let there be some decency not to interfere or to sabotage the entire debate.
Making false statements. That's all. Don't please make false statements.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Yanagi. Please come to the point.
Allow me to say something. So, keeping in mind the problems that common man has faced, we have been adequately providing them the guarantees. Number one. And it is not that we don't want to implement insofar as others are concerned. In the first phase, we have implemented concentrating on the people who are at the lower level of the economic status. And in a phased manner, we would be considering others also.
No, one second. Mr. Upadhyay, 1 second. No, I have a question. Mr. Yanagi, are you saying this is phase one?
I wonder as to Mr. Upadhyay.
No, one second. Mr. Yanagi. No, please don't make that allegation. He's a resident of Karnataka. No, he's a resident of Karnataka. He has the right to ask you that question. He doesn't have to belong to any party.
He's asking this question, Mr.
No,
Yanagi.
let him ask.
No, 1 second. I do agree that let everybody have their say. We'll allow interjections after that. But Mr. Yanagi, are you telling me now, because this is not something the government have said, Are you saying this is phase 1 of
So
the
we are
electricity
saying-
scheme?
We are saying in a phased manner we are implementing.
Who is saying
At
this?
this
The government
moment,
is
we are
not saying
using-
this.
No, that's what we are saying. I'm
Who
a
is
party
we?
representative.
No, you did
I'm not
say
an
that during the
outsider.
elections.
No, but the government has
When
not
we have
suggested
been-
that there's going to be a phase 2 or phase 3 here.
Just you see that is understood. That is understood.
No, it's
Firstly, we are
not understood.
concentrating on
Mr.
the
Yanagi,
people.
I'm sorry, it is not understood. You have to clarify this to the public. When is the phase
Now
2?
I'm-
Who is it for?
No, in the first phase, the people who are below
Sir,
the
where is
poverty
this
line.
first
Mr.
phase,
Upadhyay, let
second
him finish.
phase,
Mr. Upadhyay, please let him finish. Please. Yes.
Please allow me to say something. This is not done.
No, you are talking about phases.
Should I continue?
Did they mention that during the elections?
Okay, one
First
second.
phase,
Mr.
we
Upadhyay,
don't need
I'll give you an
10% of the
opportunity.
people.
Mr. Upadhyay, I'll give you an opportunity. Let him have his say. We'll do some cross-questioning later. Yes, Mr. Yanagi, please finish.
Yes, first of all, we are concentrating on the below poverty line and the people who are just nearer to the poverty line. In a phased manner, we would be concentrating on others and also there are so many changes need to be done, not only in respect of the supply of the electricity, production of the electricity, but also to see that it should be economically viable and it should be up to the requirement of the people.
But sir,
So, at the
economic
end of the day,
viability had to be
we-
seen when you were making these promises. Also, please explain to me, if you are
That is
catering,
what-
one second, please explain to me, if you're catering to those who are already under, price rise, suffering, and the poorest of the poor or the near poor line, why have you increased the unit price of electricity?
Unit price electricity has not been increased by the government. The decision was taken by the Electricity Commission, that's the Electricity Regulatory
Without the
Commission,
government
which is a
permission, it cannot be
quasi-judicial
done, sir.
authority on 12th of
Please
May.
understand. They have
Before
to
we
submit
could
it
come
to
to,
government.
please allow me, this is not done.
Let
I
him
don't know
finish.
whether he-
Mr.
for the first
Upadhyay, let
time
him
speaking
finish.
to
I'll
me.
give you an
You're saying
opportunity.
things that are
Please don't
wrong.
speak over each other,
Can
please.
KERC take a decision on its own? It has to get the approval
It
of the
should not be
government.
one-to-one, please.
What are you talking
Please.
about?
Okay. Yes, Mr. Yanagi, others want to come in. I'm sorry, but nobody is buying this. You are
No,
in,
let me
you are not
clarify.
only. Okay,
Let me
clarify.
clarify one by one.
Yeah.
Firstly, Karnataka Electricity Regulatory Commission is a quasi-judicial authority, and it had taken a decision on 12th of May 2023, and the election results have been announced on 13th of May 2023. And Electricity Commission's decisions would be independent, not being influenced by the election results, and more so that proposal by the electricity companies or the supply of the production companies was made, or the request was made in the month of April based on the demand
Have you
of the
objected
supply,
to it?
based on the difficulty in production because of the delay in the rain. So there are so many reasons.
No, but
for
did
which
you
the
object
companies
to
have made a
it?
request
You're the
to
new
Electricity
government in the
Regulatory Commission.
state. Since you care so much about the public, have you objected to it?
Let me
No,
clarify
stop
that.
it.
Firstly, we have already privatized the electricity supply and production company in the year 1999. Since then, it is the private companies which have been operating, though it is having the control
They
of the
all
state
work under the
government.
government control.
This is
They all
not
work
done.
under the government control.
Sir, don't project it like the government has no control over it. That's all that Mr. Upadhyay
ultimately-
is objecting to.
Don't try to be
Ultimately,
too ingenious. Don't try to be too ingenious.
Okay, but
It's
Mr.
not gonna
Upadhyay,
work.
let him finish. Otherwise it won't be possible to continue like this. Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Yanagi.
so when this is the decision to be taken by the quasi-judicial authority, which is like a court, and the decision has been taken, it is not only binding on the individual, but also on the company and all the consumers, including the state, it is binding. We are also one party to it. And it is not that, let us understand the concept of a quasi-judicial authority.
No, don't
When
explain
it
me
is
that.
like a court.
I want to
Don't
understand
try
what
to
is the
argue.
position
We
of the
know it.
government.
We
You
know
seem
it.
to
All
care.
this
You're saying you're taking
Please
care of the
mute him.
poorest of the poor,
Please
but you
mute
are
this
also
gentleman.
allowing the increase of electricity unit
And you
price
increase it by,
by
almost
3 rupees.
per unit.
How is
Please
this
mute
okay?
this gentleman, please.
One second. Let me go across to some others as well. On top of that, the contours, Dr. Sudha, the contours of
Yeah.
this electricity scheme are now absolutely different to what was announced. How
very-
is it that this will not qualify as a betrayal and trying to fool the public?
Yeah, very good evening, Shivani. I would first of all try congratulate you that you have been you're speaking you're the voice of the people of Karnataka. I must say today every citizen of Karnataka is facing this with a lot of conflicts and confusions. So whatever they have created, in fact, they've created the conflicts in the families also by giving 2,000. They're not specified to whom they should give 2,000 for that ladies. First thing. And regarding electricity, it is something called in Hindi, they call it, iske topi uske sar. So this was very much expected by me, at least, that they're going to do something of this sort. And the middleman who is paying the tax and everything, he is going to be more taxed, he is going to be more burdened, and they are the one they're playing their cards very safely, they're thinking. But it is not like that. It is not the opponents of Congress who are arose today or questioning them. It is every citizen of Karnataka are really disheartened by them, and they're questioning, and they're not scared of anything, like the sort of vindictive politics they are playing today. They have removed Praveen Natta's wife from the job. Then regarding the syllabus education system, they tried to slash many of the syllabus what was implied by the BJP government. And not only in that, most every day we are coming up with 1 or 2 cases against any of those BJP or any other people who are commenting on the social media, saying that
I'll come to that later. That's a slightly separate issue. Dr. Sudha, I want to focus on the guarantees today. Mr. Pasha, I want to come to you. Is this a betrayal, or is this just...
Of course, this is a betrayal. This is a betrayal. This is a betrayal,
Okay.
Shivani. I'm telling you.
No, understood. I'm asking Mr. Pasha this question.
To 75%.
No, I understand. I'm asking Mr. Pasha, the representative of the JDS, will this qualify as a betrayal, or is this something that was the natural course that, okay, during elections, you say something which is simplified, the fine print only comes after the government comes to power?
Well, absolutely, Shivani. I'll coin a different word for this. This is called as the partial delivery of promise. I wouldn't call it as a betrayal, but I would certainly call it as a partial delivery of promise. No doubt, the gentleman from Congress, he needs to understand that no doubt because of these 5 guarantees, the people of Karnataka have completely trusted your guarantees, and you've got a substantial advantage in the election because of these 5 guarantees. Now, as a common citizen of, not as a spokesperson of the JDS, I'm asking you as a common citizen of Karnataka, sir, it is time for you to deliver. When you have reaped the benefits of a majority, a substantial majority with the promises of guarantees, 5 guarantees, it's time for you to deliver the complete guarantees, not the partial delivery. And at the same time, Shivani, yes, these are the social welfare, you call it as a social welfare schemes, or you call it as the freebies. If they are promised to the people of Karnataka, definitely they have to be delivered. And at the same breath, like when we are a regional party, we definitely question both the national parties. I would want to ask Dr. Sudha and, the senior journalist also who's been vociferously asking for why is it not delivered. I would also want to ask BJP, sir, can you please help us understand what happened to your guarantees? It's been 9 years. What happened to 15 lakhs? What happened to the black money which is plundered by the wealthy?
Don't go into that zone. I'm sick and tired of this 15 lakh. No, nobody made that guarantee. No, Mr. Aslam, that guarantee was never made. It was never part of any manifesto or anything. No guarantee cards were published on 15 lakh. I'm sorry, you cannot deviate from this issue and this particular culture of giving these promises, especially free electricity promises, free water promises, free bus travel promises, and compare that to that 15 lakhs thing. No, I'm sorry, that was never a promise and it was never passed a part of a manifesto.
Just give me 30 seconds.
Yes,
30
go ahead.
Seconds more.
Yes.
30 seconds more. I am saying, right, it is not there in the manifesto. Are you saying, I want to ask, in the second term which Modi ji has come in, are you saying when a prime minister or a home minister says in an election campaign, we will get the 15 lakh, we will build the smart cities, we will get the black money plundered back to India?
Please understand what the government
is not a promise.
One by one. Smart city. One second. Please don't confuse issues. Can I just come in? I request everybody to please speak when I come to them. Do not speak over each other. Mr. Pasha, I understood your point, but I am not doing any monkey balancing today, and I am not going to ask. When I'm discussing Karnataka guarantees, I'm not going to talk about smart cities. I'll discuss that on the day when I discuss smart cities. And smart cities and bullet trains are a different issue than this 15 lakh thing. That 15 lakh was
No,
never a
actually it is
promise.
not.
But
Actually, it
I
is
am
not.
discussing what has happened in Karnataka, and I am discussing this particular culture of announcing freebies before elections to fight elections. All right, I am not going to deviate my debate. But yes, Mr. Upadhyay, now I come to the overall question of this culture. You look in Himachal, some of the key promises, which are the biggest vote garnering promises, haven't been fulfilled. Either it is taking too long or they're not being fulfilled at all. In Punjab, that has happened. The Aam Aadmi Party hasn't fulfilled some of its key promises that they made and won the elections with. Now this is happening in Karnataka. If it goes on like this, I don't think it's going to be that easy to fool the public election after election.
I think people will learn this lesson from this, Shivani, because the Congress leaders kept saying that, all these guarantees, you can trust us, you can trust us. In fact, they even gave it in writing. Both Shivkumar and Siddaramaiah have, signed those, cards and given lakhs of families that it has been distributed. So what does it mean? It means nothing but dokha. They're given a dokha to the people. At least they should have done the Delhi model, that they given 200 units free to everyone, irrespective of their consumption, whatever. So up to 200 units free. So why didn't they do that in Karnataka?
Okay.
That they have not done.
Okay, but
And
let me bring in the
1 minute.
Yes, very
just
quickly.
30 seconds, Shivani.
Yeah.
Just 30 seconds. You see, the consumption in Karnataka, 1.29 crore households consumes an average of just 68 units. And all these people are hoping that they are able to improve their consumption, get a fridge in the house or get a TV so that we have up to 200 units. Now, what have you done? You have just kept it at that level and said 10% more.
Yeah, get 10% extra and get that much free as long as it's under 200 units per month.
They'll get 75 units. What about 200 units you promised?
Right.
So this
no,
is
that's a fair question. That's a fair question to ask. But let me bring in Mr. Yanagi and please allow him to finish his point. Mr. Yanagi, the Congress is very dangerously entering this zone where your promises are going to be called Jumla. If you keep doing this state after state after state, where you promise something and then either the riders are so confusing that it changes the contour of the scheme completely, or you fail to deliver on those pre-poll promises, then this is what a Jumla is.
So let me make few points very clear without any disturbance of the other participants. Firstly, this debate or the discussion is concentrated on the promises made by the Congress and others, except the BJP and the BJP ruled states. If it is a case to be considered in respect of a general promises made during the election and not being fulfilled, or there is a delay being fulfilled, that should be considered equally to that of the BJP.
I'll tell you why.
Except BJP, the entire discussion is
No. We are very happy to include the BJP, but I'll tell you what the qualification is. One second, since you asked a very important question. One second, I'll give you time. I'll give you time. Mr. Yanagi, since you made this point, let me make it very clear to you. We are talking about stuff that is promised for free. That's the distinction I'm making. A promise of development of something, whether it is 50% fulfilled, 60% fulfilled, that's a separate category. I am particularly focusing on promises that guarantee something for free for either the entire electorate of a state or to some residents of the state. And that is why I'm discussing these promises.
Have we at any point of time discussed about 20 lakh crore promise made by Mr. Modi during his Corona? We have not discussed.
20 lakh of what?
How many people have received it? We do not want to discuss it because that is the propaganda. And please ask that senior
the
journalist
manifesto.
No, Mr. Upadhyay, one second, please allow him to finish. Yes, only Mr. Yanagi. Yes, please finish.
And we don't want to discuss because that should not be the propaganda.
No, forget that. No, you have come to power in Karnataka. You explain your performance.
So that is how we have not completed even 1 month. And the BJP is so restless. And people have given us the complete
We are
mandate.
not
so
restless.
that-
The people of Karnataka are restless. That's why I'm keeping quiet. People of Karnataka are questioning.
Please allow that. Please ask him to at least speak. So he's interfering continuously. This is
No, only
completely
me and
nonsense,
Mr.
in fact.
Yanagi, please. Only me and Mr. Yanagi. Give him the time that he
firstly,
needs. Nobody else
the
to be
people
speaking
are
over
wise
him,
enough-
please. Only Mr. Yanagi and me. Yes.
The people are wise enough that there are some administrative decisions to be taken. The people are wise enough that it would be implemented in a phased manner. The people are wise enough that earlier also we have implemented our promises. People are wise enough that we will certainly deliver whatever we have promised.
Can I ask
because
you a
of
question
our
now?
past experience in delivering. And the people are believing, but the BJP is betraying the mandate of the people. It want to create
They
problems because it is
will answer
frustrated
to the
to be out of
electorate if
power.
they betray. You cannot say just because they are betraying, it is okay for me to betray. But let me ask you a question. You're talking about the fact that the public is very wise. They understand that there are some nitty-gritties involved. Why was the party not wise enough before the elections to understand what the impact on the exchequer is going to be? Today you are doing those calculations. Is it not your responsibility to do that before elections?
In advance itself, we have said during the election campaign itself, we have said that we are getting prepared and we will implement it. And we have already got the calculations how to implement it and in which manners.
Firstly, then why are you not giving 200 units? If you had planned for it, why are you not giving 200 units to everybody?
So we will do it in a phased manner. Why so haste for the BJP?
Because you promised that you will do it the moment you come to power. Why did you have to say that?
So we have been doing it. So it is in the pipeline. Let us understand that we have not declared something and we have closed the chapter.
Okay.
It is in the process of implementation.
Let me give Dr. Sudha, who's been waiting very patiently, 30 seconds. Yes, final comments, Dr. Sudha.
They're just, confusing, there's a saying called as, if you can't conclude, confuse it. So they're just confusing the public of Karnataka. They're unable to stand up to the expectations of the people of Karnataka. And they don't have any words against, other than blaming, saying that, BJP is eager or BJP is waiting for the answers. No, we BJP are sitting quietly, calmly, waiting to see your promises to be fulfilled to the people of Karnataka. That's it.
We'll wait and see how this goes.
Very carefully.
No, absolutely. The people will watch. And I feel like this whole culture of promising quote-unquote freebies before elections, that will have a diminishing return. Because if this keeps happening in state after state, for whatever party, that you deliver the moon, you promise the moon, but don't deliver even half of it, it will come under doubt by the public itself. I leave it at that. I do thank our guests for joining us. I've come completely out of time. I have to move on to the other big story we're tracking. And this is, of course, from the world of sports and the world of cricket. Less than 24 hours to go for the WTC Final in London. The Indian team will need a perfect blend of skills and temperament when they take on an equally strong Australia in the World Test Championship Final to be played at the Oval. India has consistently performed well in the last two WTC cycle years, demonstrating their superiority in the game's longest format. But winning an ICC trophy requires more than just that. India have come close to winning major white ball tournaments in the past decade, reaching the knockout stages but falling short of claiming the trophy. In fact, let's take a look at the record of the Indian team in ICC finals. So the big one, of course, was the 1983 World Cup, the first time India won a big ICC trophy. After that, though, we lost 3 finals in Champions Trophy and ODI World Cup in 2003. And what a crushing defeat that was in the 2003 World Cup final versus Australia. Then came what can be called the golden period for India. Under MS Dhoni, India won the T20 World Cup, the ODI World Cup and the Champions Trophy, completing a hat-trick of big titles. But that was 10 years ago. Now, not only has India not made too many finals since then, they've also not managed to win a big trophy, losing the T20 World Cup final in 2014, 2017 Champions Trophy to Pakistan, and then the inaugural World Test Championship final in 2021. Can they do it this time around is the big question. And naturally, that's the question being thrown to the team captain and coach repeatedly. This is what they have to say.
नहीं, देखिए, हम लोग को पता है हमने क्या जीता है और क्या नहीं जीता है. बार बार उस चीज़ के बारे में सोचने का कोई मतलब है नहीं. लास्ट ईयर जब हम लोग ऑस्ट्रेलिया में थे T20 वर्ल्ड कप के वक्त, हमें वो सवाल फिर से तभी भी किया गया था और तभी भी मैंने यही जवाब दिया था कि प्लेयरों को पता है, सबको पता है कि इंडिया ने कब जीता है, कब नहीं जीता है. तो उसके बारे में बार बार सोचना आई डोंट थिंक जायज़ है. यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन कि अभी क्या सिचुएशन है, कैसे हम अच्छा कर सकते हैं. तो सारे प्लेयर्स, कोचिंग स्टाफ का पूरा ध्यान इसी चीज़ में है कि हम इस मैच में कैसे अच्छा कर सकते और जीत सकते.
No, not at all. I mean, we don't feel any pressure in terms of, trying to win an ICC trophy. Of course, it would be nice to do it. It would be certainly nice to be able to win an ICC tournament. But also in the context of things, you look at this and you see This is the culmination of 2 years of work. It's a culmination of a lot of success that gets you here. So there's a lot of positives to take from that, to see where you stand in the table, winning series in Australia, drawing series here, being very competitive everywhere that this team has played in the world over the last 5 or 6 years. I think those are things that will never change just because you have or you don't have an ICC trophy. That's really the bigger picture.
So both the captain and the coach there underplaying or downplaying the expectations of winning the ICC trophy. Is that the right thing to do, really? I'm going to take that question to our guests also joining us in just a bit. The big question is, of course, can India end the ICC title drought, something that has been running for 10 years now?
It's the first game of the season happening on this ground. We are quite aware of what the conditions are, what is going to happen in the next 5 days.
It's really important. I think the World Test Championship now, having the two best teams play in a final, I think is great.
Let me go across to Ayaz Memon, commentator and sports writer, joining us. Some of our other guests will also be with us in just a bit. Ayaz, my first question is, you heard what both Rohit Sharma and Rahul Dravid said about the pressure of winning an ICC trophy. Particularly what Rahul Dravid said, he almost seemed to suggest that, it doesn't really matter whether you win titles alone, your journey is equally important. Is that a right statement to make? Are titles not important anymore?
No, I think they are. I mean, it's a philosophical way of looking at things. I think what Rahul Dravid was mentioning is that from a player's perspective, when you play so many matches and so many tournaments, there might be some you win and some you lose. But obviously, the urge and the desire to win tournaments and titles has to be very strong. Otherwise, you might, the more kind of philosophical aspect or philosophical way of looking at it, and the more urgent issue on hand is that you are there in the final. This is a final where there are only two teams, and then you've been there the last time you lost. Can you win it this time or not?
Okay, Ayaz, I'm facing some issue with your line. Let me try and see if we can improve that a little bit. But let me also go across to Group Sports editor K. Srinivas Rao, who's actually joining us from London. Srini, you've been keeping a very close watch on the net sessions, the pitch and the weather. It looks like it's going to be sunnier than what it was in Southampton a couple of years ago. Give us the latest of what what it's looking like, the conditions.
The closer I look at the conditions, the more confusing it gets for me.
Right.
So I'll tell you why. Because the sun came out yesterday. It came out in the latter half of the day. When the sun came out, everything looked perfectly normal. But it's when the sun is not out is when your mind starts to work. Like right now, for instance, yesterday by this time the sun had come out. Today it's gloomy and it's overcast. There is no prediction for rain. There's going to be no rain, which is a great thing. But the sun is not out. So for instance, tomorrow if probably India were to bat first and we would have these conditions overhead, then I'm not very sure what kind of threat would bowlers like Cummins and Stark pose.
So give me a sense of, what the pitch is looking like, particularly. I think Rohit Sharma has already indicated they would like a look tomorrow as well, as any team would. He wasn't going to reveal too much about what the playing 11 is going to be. But what's your reading from the pitch, the conditions and also the net sessions?
Well, right now I'm speaking with you, I can take a look at the pitch. And yes, there is definitely a tinge of green. I'm not going to say that this is like some kind of a green carpet or something, but there's a slight tinge of green. And yes, so you will have bounce on this wicket. Seamers will play on the a role on this wicket. Traditionally, although, what Rohit also said in the press conference is so true, that traditionally, oval tends to get easier once play begins. It's only the start, but once play begins, oval tends to get easier. The same track, what it is beginning to appear right now, which is a slightly greenish tinge on it, looking to us as seamers, probably on day two could look different with some more role to play for spinners. So, to predict an 11 right now would be next to impossible. And I think the only way we have to wait and watch is what Rohit Sharma and Rahul Dravid decide tomorrow morning.
Okay, Deep Dasgupta, former India cricketer, is also joining us. But before I go to him, Srini, I have one more question, which I began with Ayaz as well. Now, some of these noises that the captain and the coach are making, and I was in Australia, the tournament, the T20 World Cup that Rohit Sharma talked about, that, we were asked this question then too, when are we winning our next ICC trophy? But I almost get this sense that they're irritated with the media for asking this question, but this is a natural question to ask. And it almost seems like, don't focus on the titles, we are on this journey, and, we are looking for personal improvement. It doesn't work like that in competitive sport. You have to win titles.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree. At best, if they are not answering, they are only avoiding. They are trying to hedge. They are trying to avoid saying what is the most obvious thing. Why are you here? Why have you qualified for the final? Why was this final so important to you? Obviously, because you know that there is value to winning a title. And that title comes with its share of responsibility. So, I can imagine why they are running away from it. Because, yes, the fact remains that it's been the longest time since India has laid its hands on an ICC trophy, and that's bound to be hitting them. Whether they answered it to us or not, this is the rule. There's no running away from it when they're inside the dressing room.
Yeah, one aspect could be, Deep, that, you want to downplay some of the build-up and you don't want to add the pressure on your players. But I think it was Rahul only who said that, the build-up has been less frenzied, so that in itself helps them. But I don't know, it's not nice to hear that the coach is saying, look at our 2 years of work. I mean, we want that work to culminate into ICC trophies. It's not unheard of.
Yeah, Shivani, I think that stands good for some of the other teams. But when you're talking about India, you're expected to win games because it's a champion team. You're expected to win trophies. So it's not a mid-table team. It is one of the top teams in the world, and it has consistently been one of the top teams in the world. So from the top teams, obviously your expectations would be a lot more. It's not just about reaching semi-final or final, but actually trophies.
Yeah.
And that's what champion teams are all about, winning trophies. So yes, I mean, yeah.
No, I'm not sure. It's okay if the coach or the captain said that, we want to win big titles. And I think Rohit has said that. It's just that it's been so long that he doesn't want to sound like a broken record.
True, and obviously this question will be asked over and over again till the time India does go on and win an ICC trophy.
Yeah.
So that stays. But I do understand from a captain, from a player, from a coach's perspective, where you do want to downplay a big game because you want to treat it as any other game. So you definitely would want to downplay it. But the other important thing that might actually help India, and you mentioned it, Rahul did talk about it as well, because to a great extent, this has been looked as not the main event of the summer. Obviously, the main event of the summer is the Ashes. So there is this huge hype about the Ashes, which is understandable in this country. So somehow, even yesterday, I was talking to an Australian journalist, and they're kind of looking at WTC as kind of a warm-up to the Ashes.
Yeah. Also, that may be true for Australia, but Deep, I think for us also, the bigger event is coming in October. That's why the build-up to the WTC has been a little bit less, because this is a World Cup year. Yeah. If it hadn't been a World Cup year, this would have been much, much bigger. And of course, it's coming right on the heels of the IPL. But actually, Deep, I forgot to mention, Deep is also in England and he's also working and commentating on the match. So good to have him on the show. Ayaz, you wanted to come in?
Yes. So, Shivani, just to tell you, even I am in England.
Oh, you are also in England.
To highlight that,
why am I not in England?
WTC final, in my opinion.
Why don't all three of you pool some money?
England, yes.
Why don't all three of you pool some money and get me to England so that we can all do the show there?
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. But just to kind of reiterate, I think the idea of the WTC final was to have the avowed objective was to propagate the value of Test cricket. So I don't think that anybody, certainly not the ICC, neither the two teams, the Australian Cricket Board or the BCCI, can afford to downplay or should downplay the WTC final. You may be having the World Cup later and there will be the Ashes following this, but I'm afraid they are not bigger than the WTC final where I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
You might downplay it just to not put pressure on your players. But for God's sake, I don't think the Indian team or the Australian team will take the field tomorrow and say, oh, it doesn't matter if we lose. I think they'll be hurt as hell
the Australians
if they lose this match.
will ever be hurt.
than whatever happens in the Ashes subsequently or the World Cup.
No, I don't think an Australian team will ever be heard saying before a big championship match like this that, big titles don't matter. Look at our journey for 2 years. I'm sorry, that will just not happen. And I don't think it's okay to say that.
Shivani.
Yeah, okay, I have to discuss some other things, but I think this is creating a lot of furore in our own panel. Yes, Srini, you wanted to come in very quickly.
Yes, Shivani. I completely agree to a large extent with what Deep said. The whole build-up and the noise around Ashes. You asked me, is it irritating when, it sounds like a broken record and people tend to shy away from answering the important question, which is, that there is a title to be won here and nobody wants to put its foot down and kind of say something about it. The flip side to that is equally irritating is how England and Australia try to build up Ashes even in the middle of being in the middle of a tournament that is or a final that is obviously far more important. You look at the commentary, you look at the narrative around here from a media standpoint. It's all about Ashes. It's not about the India-Australia final. It is there to a large extent, but not the way it should be. And broken record, yes. That the Ashes actually supersedes everything is beginning to sound like a broken record here when there is a World Test Championship final being played. You open the newspapers here, everything is about the Ashes. You kind of talk to people here, everything is about the Ashes. So yes, I mean that is something which is.
But that's because England is missing out.
Sad.
No, so England will downplay this. The English media will downplay it because the English are not in the final.
And that just brings me to that question.
Shivan.
Does it have to be at a neutral venue? Does it have to be England every time?
Okay.
I mean, listen, we're talking about mid-June. Sorry, quickly, let me just quickly make this point. So when they talk about cricket being played this part of the year, listen, Southern India, we play cricket in June, July. In Sri Lanka, you play June, July. So it's not necessarily that you have to play. If it's June, July, you have to play here in England.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that question will be looked at as this World Championship goes on. But let me just quickly play out as we build up to the big match, which is starting tomorrow. And of course, the playing 11 isn't much question. I'll take that to our experts. But I also want to play out what Shubman Gill, the man of the hour, has said. Remember, all eyes are on him because he's coming off his coaching form in the IPL. This is what he has told the ICC. It does give you a bit of confidence from the IPL, but I feel this is a completely different scenario and a completely different game. But that's the fun about it. Last week, we were playing something completely different with a different atmosphere. And that is the challenge, and that is what is exciting about Test cricket. Of course, everybody would be hoping that this man comes good. If he does, some of our worries with Rohit Sharma's form, even to some extent Virat Kohli's form, can be absorbed. We know what Chiteshwar Pujara can do. We know what Rane is capable of, especially in this new avatar. So Deep, I want to ask you, the other big question before this final is it better off that India is coming off a grueling 2 months of IPL versus an Australia that most of their players have barely played any cricket? Or could Indians be more jaded because of that? Plus, you have to adjust from coming off T20 cricket to Test cricket, and very quickly.
Well, okay, so I don't think there is any perfect preparation for a final like this. But ideally, you rather play some cricket than not play any cricket at all. So I do understand it's not ideal that you're coming off from a T20 franchise cricket where you played for different franchises, different sides, but at least you've been playing some cricket. And I completely agree with what Shubman mentioned. I mean, run under the belt is run under the belt, irrespective of which format you're playing. So at least you're hitting balls. And listen, for an undercooked side, bowling, for the bowlers to get back into rhythm might be a comparatively easier thing. But for a batter, it's a one-ball game. So if you haven't had enough practice or enough match practice or game time, that can be an issue. So I'd rather have played some cricket, irrespective of the format, than play no cricket at all.
Okay. On that note, very quickly, Deep, what is your playing 11 going to be like?
Oh my God. Okay, as KSR mentioned, I completely agree. In England, what you say is you look down, which is the pitch, and then you look up at the skies and then take a call. You just don't look at the pitch only. So that's how it works here in England. So as of now, I'm going to go with my 12. And then tomorrow morning, let's say half an hour before the toss, I'm going to look down, obviously, and then look up and decide whether I'm going to go with Ashwin and Jadeja or I'm going to go with 4 seamers. Because the other
And who's going to be the lone spinner?
Jadeja for me.
Jadeja.
That's definitely there. And the other thing to weigh up is you don't have your third seamer. For fourth seamer, you know it's going to be Shardul Thakur. But if it's three seamers, you don't have a, let's say, a Bumrah, obviously, then you won't have even thought about it. But because your third seamer, you also have to weigh up, let's say, Ashwin and your third seamer, who brings more to the table. So that is also a cause of concern, I believe. You don't have someone like a Bumrah or even Prasidh Krishna for that matter. You're looking at Umesh Yadav or Jaydev Unadkar as your third seamer.
Yeah. Ayaz, what is your take on this?
You know, I mean, I agree with Deep that you have to look down and look up because, and Sridini mentioned earlier that, you know, the weather has become a little fickle, you know, and therefore things might change theoretically or the tactics might change. But I would still think India would play to their strength, which is 5 bowlers, 6 batsmen. That's what they've been doing irrespective of the conditions over the last 4 or 5 years, and they've been doing it very successfully. To change things around, to just say I'll add another batsman might suggest a little apprehension, maybe unnecessary. And then the choice between 2 spinners and an extra fast bowler, I think, you know, these guys are giving you strength with their bowling as well as by extending the batting depth. So I think I would go with both Ashwin and Jadeja, 3 fast bowlers. I would actually think that the third choice of the fast bowler after Shami and Siraj would be Unadkar, because he brings in a different angle of delivery altogether. And others haven't played him much apart from what they've done, what they've seen of him in the IPL. So he could be a bit of a surprise element there. But that's, you know, that's my take.
Sorry.
Yes, Deep, you wanted to come in?
Shivani, can I quickly add one thing in favor of playing 2 spinners? Is also, if you're looking at your second spinner being Ashwin, the off spinner, obviously his track record and everything else. Let's not forget the number of left-handers that Australia have. They're filled with left-handers, and maybe he might not, the spinners might not come into play day 1, day 2, but you pick a team for all 5 days. So second innings, they might have a major role to play then.
And the other big choice is between the wicket keepers, right? Ishan Kishan or Bharat. Srini, any hints you're getting?
I mean, no hints coming as a team, but what I feel personally is that going into a match as important as this, and a one-off test match, not a series, I think you should go in with your best red ball keeper, and that for me would be KS Bharat, not Ishan Kishan. And, you know, I've been hearing all these stuff about getting a power hitter on board. I think we have enough power hitters top the order. If they can't hit, if they don't manage to hit, then I don't think we can do much about it. That said, I agree with the same thing when it comes to our bowling lineup. I don't think we should go in with the approach of, you know, going in with a bowler who can bat a bit low. I think, you know, you play 2 spinners, I think you can easily bat until number 7, number 8. Jadeja is in good form. Ashwin has shown us what he can do in Test cricket. The top 5 batsmen are already there, and KS Bharat can also bat. That said, we should go in with the seamers, and that's why if it comes to 3 seamers, I think Umesh Yadav goes in ahead of Shardul Thakur. Yes, I know Shardul Thakur scored 2 half centuries on this very ground the last time India played here. But that said, Umesh Yadav also had 3 wickets to show in each inning. So it's a 6-wicket haul in the match. And I think I'll still go ahead with Umesh Yadav. So 3 pacers, 2 spinners, and a wicket keeper with KS Bharat into the squad. That's it. That's
I have only very limited time. I want to quickly play out what Steve Smith has said about concerns over Test cricket, and I'll take a couple of reactions after that.
Yeah, I am slightly concerned, but yeah, hopefully Test cricket still stays alive and well. I think it's in a good place at the moment. You know, in terms of some of the games we've seen recently have been pretty amazing. So, yeah, for me, as I suppose a traditionalist, someone that loves Test cricket, I hope it still remains at the front of all the board's mind and yeah, stays alive and well for some time to come.
Right. Deep, is there a concern over Test cricket? I mean, we've been talking about the build-up for the Ashes, etc. Of course, that stands apart. But is there overall a concern, something that Steve Smith seems to be hinting at?
Definitely, yes. I think in the future, this format might end up being a 5-team or 6-team format. I don't think it'll be 12 teams anymore, and it does not make sense. I think for the long-term survival and sustainability of Test match cricket, I think it has to be, to a great extent, a 5-6 team. And secondly, just kind of thinking about what has India winning an ICC trophy across formats meant. 83, India wins the 50 overs. We see the sea change in the cricket economy or the ecosystem. 2007 T20, whether it'll work this format, won't work. India wins the ICC trophy or the World Cup, and see where T20 is now. So I personally feel, I think it'll make from a very a holistic perspective or a cricket as a sport perspective, India winning this WTC would definitely help the cause of Test cricket as well.
Okay, I have just about 30 seconds left. Ayaz, you want to add something before I give a final word to Srini as well?
No, I think what Deep is saying is absolutely right. If India wins this, it'll give a booster shot to Test cricket because there'll be so much more interest, especially in a country which follows it so passionately. I also subscribe to the view, not necessarily happily, that it's becoming more and more a club or a cluster of 5 or 6 teams which are playing cricket, Test cricket, which seems worthwhile for the rest of us and for the sport. But I think that's where the ICC and the cricket boards need to step in, because unless you expand the horizons of cricket, this cluster will get smaller and smaller, and therefore it'll hit Test cricket very badly in the future if we don't do something about it now.
Yeah. Srini, final word on this?
Yes, Chief, as far as Test cricket is concerned, it's not going anywhere. Test cricket is here to stay, come what may. It's about, how people want to perceive it, things about Test cricket. Test cricket is not going away anywhere. What the ICC and the cricket boards need to realize is, look at the concept of the WTC, World Test Championship. 9 teams, take part in the WTC. Are 9 teams playing the same number of matches? Are these 9 teams playing the same number of series? Within the series, are these 9 teams playing the same number of matches? So how exactly is the point system allocated? I mean, I have no idea. Call any statistician on the show and ask him, how do you understand how the point system for the WTC works?
Right.
Nobody will be able to explain it to you how
Okay,
it is that complicated. I don't think anybody understands. And that is why one of the reasons we see is that the lesser privileged countries in Test cricket who want to play Test cricket are not really going anywhere with it.
Okay,
and
fair enough. I've
where
run out of time, but I think this is an interesting debate. We'll try and take this forward as this big showcase of Test cricket happens. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Too bad I'm not there, but they're all in England enjoying. But there's the other thing about context to matches, and I think that's been spoken about quite a bit. And that context to your bilateral series is a question that is increasing, especially with what's happening to Test cricket. We'll look at those questions as this match progresses. Time for a very short break. On the other side, news and updates continue. On the ground working with. That's where the CBI comes in. This is where the Railway Board has said they do require the CBI to step in to identify if that fail-safe system was tinkered with. Were those who were tinkering with it doing so deliberately or not? Because there is a hint of interference within the electronic system. So the lens is on the coincidence of the time of the accident, and what it's particularly important to understand over here is that the security in the relay room, remember, is where all of these decisions are made. The security of the relay room, whether or not there were CCTV cameras that can tell us more about what happened, all of that is under the scanner. Now, theory number 3, and this is also particularly important. Theory number 3 is whether or not there was a flaw in the system. So what are the chances that there was a system issue here? And if so, who would be persecuted? This is question number 3. Now, remember, right after this incident came to light, we were able to share with you that a similar incident was averted back in February in Karnataka. In that incident, officials involved in the ground had alerted Railway Ministry members, Railway Board members, that there were possible problems in the signalling system involved in trains across the country. They'd alerted that it could lead to larger problems. Why were those problems not addressed? That would remain the larger question here. So these are the 3 theories. My colleague Akash is with us now on the phone to bring us more details about this entire story. Let's go over to Akash right now to understand. Akash, we've been telling our audiences that one of the most prominent theories is that a possible quick fix was used on the ground by workers, and that quick fix was perhaps not successful. That's what possibly led to this accident. But then there is also the possibility still that it was a systems failure. Can you tell us more about how the CBI can ascertain this, especially because the CBI, we know, is already looking to identify what the intention of the people on the ground was. But how can they identify this more technical aspect, Akash?
Right. So, Toya, first of all, it is important to mention here that other than CBI, yes, the particular case has been recommended to CBI. In fact, CBI has, started its investigation. But other than CBI, CRS is also inquiring the case. CRS is the top key officers in railways and is generally, responsible for, giving a fitment certificate to the track giving a fitment certificate for the speed regularization of new rates, new trains. So he is the top officer who is actually leading an inquiry, an investigation. Now, sources are saying that since, CBI will in fact will be investigating the whole matter, either they'll take the technical support from railways or they'll, take this particular report from CRS as the base of the inquiry, base of the investigation. But again, as we still don't know as to what was the main reason, because you see, some are saying that the construction work, the repair work that in fact you are talking about, and in fact we informed our viewers in the morning that a boom replacement work was carried out on the particular section, and this can be the real reason that because of that particular work, some sort of interference was there in the signaling, because a boom is also connected to a signal system. So boom is basically, a level crossing. You can consider boom is basically a barrier that is generally used at level crossing. And this boom is generally connected to signaling system. So it is possible that, some sort of interference was done in order to replace the boom. And in that process, something else happened, and the point was set to the another direction. And in fact, the panel was not showing any error. Now, the point and the argument is that if it has happened, whether or not it was intentional, and this is the reason why everyone is stressing on CBI investigation now, because CBI will let us know as to if there was some sort of conspiracy behind this, if it was some sort of intention, some sort of specific mindset, or if it was a mistake.
Our first story continues to be an update on the heartbreaking incident that took place in Odisha, the three-train collision that led to the loss of more than 230 lives on Friday night. Now, you might remember that the Railway Board had recommended that the investigation into the incident be handed over to the CBI. Central Bureau of Investigation teams are, as we speaking, arriving at the Odisha crash site. On your screens right now, you can see those visuals. The individual in pink is reportedly a CBI official who has arrived on the site itself to conduct that investigation. Remember, while the cause of the incident itself that played out on Friday has to some degree already been recognized. So sources say that it could have been that a possible last-minute fix is what led to the accident. Essentially, that boom replacement work was carried out on a section, and that's what could have led to that problem in interlocking. So they have identified the technical cause, but the CBI investigation is reportedly to investigate whether or not that intervention was done deliberately with malintention or by mistake. That's why the CBI has gotten involved. Now, you'll remember opposition parties like the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee have criticized the involvement of the CBI. They've said that typically the CBI's involvement does not yield quick solutions. My colleague Kamalika is with us right now to bring us more context. Kamalika, tell us more about what it is that the CBI is on the ground to identify. Tell us, for example, who the perpetrators are. Some sources say...
This is a day that's been years in the making.
Apple CEO Tim Cook kicking off the 2023 Worldwide Developers Conference, introducing a mixed reality headset called Apple Vision Pro. Offers both virtual and augmented reality by allowing users to connect apps from Apple and others in a new way.
Blending digital content with the real world can unlock experiences like nothing we've ever seen.
Apple says the headset will go on sale early next year and will cost $3,499. Apple also unveiled new MacBooks, including a 15-inch MacBook Air, and several new features for the iPhone, iPad, and Watch, including improved video conferencing, FaceTime, and messaging features across all products.
Including the ability to simply say Siri to activate Siri.
As well as a revamped lock screen for iPad OS, a new caller ID for iPhone users, and a new feature called Check-In. which notifies selected contacts when a user reaches an intended destination.
Whether you're walking home after dark or going for an early morning run, you can start check-in with a family member or friend to let them know when you get home safely.
If a user doesn't reach a destination, check-in automatically shares useful information like location, battery, and cell service status with selected users. And as big tech companies race to introduce AI-powered tools, Apple took a more subtle approach to artificial intelligence, announcing an update to autocorrect that's using AI to make it more accurate.
Hello everyone, you're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. The storm continues over the Balasore train disaster, which shook the nation last Friday, claiming close to 300 lives and over 1,000 injuries. Restoration operations continue on a war footing. The Coromandel Express will now resume from tomorrow. It will start at 3:20 p.m. from Howrah. However, the authorities continue to face challenges over the identification of unclaimed bodies. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is in Odisha and met the train crash survivors. After claiming Dal mein kuch kala hai, Mamata Banerjee today said the truth must come out. Meanwhile, the TMC and other opposition parties are still demanding Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnav's resignation. However, JDS chief and former Prime Minister H.D. Devegowda has come out in support of Ashwini Vaishnav, saying everyone should wait for the investigation report, adding that calling for a resignation now is unwise. Meanwhile, the CBI has filed an FIR in the wake of the disaster. The agency has dispatched a team at the accident site. Sources say that while the Railways has identified the base cause of the 3-train crash, the CBI probe aims to determine who did it, with what mindset, and if it was intentional or a mistake. The Commission of Railway Safety is conducting a probe, and for which over 50 staff members, including technical staff, are now under the scanner. With a multifaceted investigation underway, 3 theories are emerging over what may have gone wrong last Friday. Let me give you an overview of these theories. First one, there could have been hasty checks at the crossings. What we are learning is that repair work was done at a level crossing barrier. The staff was fixing a malfunctioned boom barrier. There is a suspicion of a shortcut job on the location box. The alleged hurried job may have disturbed the interlocking system. Theory 2 is that there is a possibility of a sabotage. The fail-safe system may have been deliberately tinkered with. There may have been interference with the electronic system as well. Teams are looking at coincidences at the time of the accident, and the security of the relay room is also under the scanner. Now coming to theory 3. System flaw as a similar accident was averted in February. So something which has been submitted also in the form of a report that there could have been a system flaw. Serious flaws in the signal system were highlighted in February itself. Experts had asked for corrective actions. Question is, why weren't these actions taken? The list of people who had access to the signal system is now under the scanner. So the big question that emerges, was sabotage the root cause of this crash? That is our top focus this hour.
बहुत तेजी से नॉर्मलाइजेशन हो रहा है, ऑपरेशन नॉर्मलाइज हो रहा है। रेलवे के कर्मचारी कोशिश कर रहे हैं परिवारजनों के साथ संपर्क करने की।
आपने पहले भी बोला था कि তৃণমূলের কনস্পিরেসিটাকে আইডেন্টিফাই ওরা কালকে রাত্রি থেকে প্যানিক কেন তো সিবিআই নিয়ে অডিট কেন the place of occurrence অন্য স্টেটে
there is let the inquiry be completed and the minister is doing his best and the question of demanding the resignation of the minister at this stage is not wise.
The CBI has to do, if you see the GRP FIR, in that FIR it's clearly written that it's negligence, that there might be some change in that relay room software logic code. Now, was it happening manually without following the rule book? Was the station master aware of that?
Joining me now, Neeti Jain, spokesperson of the BJP. We have Sujata Paul representing the Congress, JP Majumdar, spokesperson of the TMC, and Shashi Bhushan Roy, who is the former IRTS officer. Mr. Roy, which of these three theories, according to you, is the most plausible one?
See, Maria, sabotage is something which is yet in the realm of imagination. One doesn't know. Sabotage has to have a very strong proof. And maybe CBI in their investigation are able to find some proof of that, and then we may reach that conclusion. But as of now, I won't think. I mean, I have been in the railways for a long time, retired also quite some time back.
Yes.
Sabotage as a cause has almost never been there, almost. So this time, because the accident is so big, in my memory, the first time CBI inquiry.
Yes,
into a railway
CBI
accident
inquiry, yes, for the first time. But sabotage has often happened in the past, Mr. Roy, when fish plates were removed by the Naxals. That was, of course, in the 1990s.
Yeah. That sabotage was a situation which prevailed in the nation at that time.
Yes.
In general, and yes, people did commit mischief by taking off the fish plates. But in this situation, I'm not saying that I rule out sabotage, but in the normal course, things can sometimes go a little this way or that in the normal course. And then somebody trying to fix it quickly can lead to some kind of situation. Because what I clearly can see is a driver is approaching a station with a train running at around 125 kilometers an hour, or even maybe 25, doesn't matter. The driver sees that his signal is green, and the signal green indicates that he will go on the straight line. Therefore, he maintains his speed and keeps going. When he reaches the point, something had either happened before or happened at that moment, because the driver can't turn the train on his own. The train engine turns because of the point setting. If the point setting is not for the main line, the signal cannot be green when the driver approached it. So the signal was, I mean,
Yes,
I would, as a professional railway man, say
this could be a signaling error
when the driver approached it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
But
we have been very clear, Mr. Roy, that in the past there was a lot of emphasis on human error or a possible, judgment of error by the drivers. That has changed again. Neeti, come in on this. There was a similar accident which was averted in February due to the vigilance of the train driver. Now it has led to a tragedy. Where should accountability rest there?
I have read that letter of February,
yes.
9th February, written by the South Western Railway Principal COM.
Yes.
What he has brought out there is that there is a relay room, and then there is a panel outside the relay room somewhere where connections all go and meet, and then they go to the panel room. So he feels that he found, or perhaps the outside panel could be opened and things can be done to it. But
so let me ask that question to Neeti. Neeti, where should accountability rest?
Maria, I think at this point, speculating on what happened, who was at fault, is not a very wise choice. I think we need to wait on whatever the committees come out with the report on, and I think that is when we would know what happened and where things went wrong. To speculate right now, I think all the three theories that you have spoken about could find traction in some avenues, but it is a very unfortunate accident that has happened. The government, the minister has been there, the prime minister was there, and I think every step has been taken on all levels wherever the help was required. But to speculate at this point, I honestly cannot sit here and tell you what went wrong.
Yes.
But whatever went wrong is being taken under consideration, and the Prime Minister himself has said whoever is at fault is going to be punished. But let's at least wait for the committees to come out with a report that can be acted upon.
Okay. Sujata Paul and JP Majumdar, both of you, both your party chiefs served as Railways Minister. Can they boast a greater safety record? Sujata Paul, coming to you first.
You know, when you're talking about the safety record, this is a government which is indulging in PR right now, because very important to understand, and Mr. Roy would correct me if I'm wrong, that in spite of all the automated systems that exist, there are ground checks which are done by people. And in this case also, people would have been checking the tracks. It's not like they wouldn't have. Now, the government is trying to peddle all these conspiracy theories. We are not, right? It is a clear case of collision followed by derailment. And why do I say it? Because there was a goods train parked over there. There were two trains which were going to come from opposite directions, which were given the signal, and it is obvious that one of them went and collided with the goods train. Now, why did it collide? Because obviously the track had been changed. But wasn't there anybody checking? And I'm going to come to that in a few seconds. Then after that, the second train, which was coming from the opposite direction, and that was also a fast train, it collided, and we saw what happened. Now, why is this happening? The reason is that there is no accountability being fixed other than the fact that the Prime Minister was there. Hang on, let me finish. Let me finish.
Accountability. The question is that a similar accident was averted in February, and that was done because the train driver was very vigilant. Now it has led to a tragedy of this scale. Was accountability fixed then? And where should accountability rest now?
Again, like Ms. Paul, I think you are the one who is indulging in all of these conspiracy theories, ma'am. As a citizen of this country or any normal person, I think I cannot fix an accountability till I know where the fault lies or what the fault was. The accountability will only be fixed once we know where the fault lies. And I think for that, we need to wait for a report to come out. It is you who has been asking, and if you're talking about numbers, ma'am,
Sujata
I think we need
here
to
is
look
saying
at 10 years of UPA government. And
Sujata is saying that the government is doing only PR.
PR, if you're saying that the railway minister was there to help, that was PR, or if the prime minister went there to look
They're supposed to go there. It is their responsibility.
The scale of accident and the PM was there, if that is PR, please explain to me, what do you think is PR about?
They are supposed to be there. What are you making such a big issue about it? They were supposed to be there. I want you to tell me that the 3.12 lakh vacant positions which are there, do we have these contractual workers who are rail Agniveers?
How is that
No, I just want you to tell me. Because this is a systemic problem. This is a policy issue. And accountability. Look, Miss Neeti Jain, accountability has to be fixed because this is a systemic issue. This is a policy issue.
May I speak?
When Mr. No. Let me tell you what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the rail minister, the rail minister has proved that this is a policy failure, because he has not been able to do anything since February. Forget the rest of it. And that is why he needs to go. If he is incompetent, he doesn't need to be there. You need to get a competent person to ensure that this kind of situation doesn't arise in the future. That's what I'm saying. So stop saying that when the report comes in, only then will you decide whether he has to go or not go. Get a competent person.
Okay, Mr. Majumdar. Mr. Majumdar, the question is also that Mamata Banerjee first said, "Dal mein kuch kala hai." Then you opposed a CBI probe, calling it smoke screen. There are multiple probes that are underway. Why not wait for the truth to come out?
No, there are several other questions. You are now discussing Maria post-accident scenario, who has gone there, who has shown better in the photo op scenario, who was more smarter looking, who was spending more time, but nothing would justify the death of 300 people and the accident. Let us go to the pre-accident scenario. Pre-accident scenario, we have said about the signal repairing and other things. My question is, inadequate human resources? Is it that the question? That compromising with technical competence, that 3 lakhs, more than 3 lakhs people, I mean, the jobs are vacant. It shows that was Indian Railway doing work with inadequate people, inadequate competence, technical competence. That's why if such thing happened about the wrong signaling system and making something wrong there, who were repairing it, these questions come. Pre-accident thing, you go for that. And most importantly, about the resignation, demanding resignation, it's a very valid one. Your Subramanian Swamy, the nominated BJP MP in Rajya Sabha, he asked for the resignation. And another question, why Indian Railway Minister will have another 2 important departments to look after? Indian Railway is the largest employer in the world, the largest configuration of railway. My friend from railway, he will say that. And when he was working, Mr. Roy, when he was working with railway, didn't he have a full-time railway minister? He should emphasize on that thing, being a ex-railway.
Okay, Mr. Roy, this point that is being made by opposition by the Congress, that it is about having a railway minister who has only one portfolio. It's not about half-time railway minister or not a full-time, because if somebody like Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav is a full-time railways minister, what makes him a half-time railway minister?
Of course, he has got another 2 departments to look after. And the day of accident, he was having meeting on railway Suraksha, and he could not complete because he has to plan for Vande Bharat thing. Such thing shows that about the safety features has gone down the line.
Are you saying
that
she's
is the
incapable of handling those portfolios?
That is the incompetence of Modi government. It's a plain and simple. Only ऊपर में सब कुछ है ठीक ठाक, नीचे में पूरा अंधकार. ये है मोदी गवर्नमेंट. And this adequately